Okay, so there's this YouTube channel called Redacted, and I'm pretty sure they're like Russian spies or like, I don't know. They think they have this unbiased news, non-mainstream, oh, we tell you the truth. We're unbiased. We tell you what no other news will tell you. But I think that they're just lying. I think they're just creating fake bullshit. I think they're just listening to the news and then they're just saying the opposite of it and then just being like, oh, we're different. I think they're like Russian spies or they're pushing Russian propaganda or something. Because they said something that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. Yeah, I'm going to play a clip from them. And yeah, they're just acting like, because I don't know how much you guys know about like the Ukraine war and like the Donbass region and all that. Blah, blah, blah. But this channel, they were talking about Russia annexing these places illegally recently, and they were like talking about it how, oh yeah, they voted and the people want it, so yay, that's a good step in the direction of the war, because that means that Russia and Ukraine's getting along. They were able to have a vote, and this section actually voted, oh yeah, we'll become Russian, and so yay. And then they're like, oh, and then the mainstream media is telling you that Russia is just forcing people to vote at gunpoint. When it's like, yeah, but that is what's happening, though. It's not just, oh, leftist media, mainstream, fake news. And so my video right here is, I'm going to kind of prove that in a way. But that's not the majority of the video. Okay, so I commented on this video. I'm going to show you a clip that I saw of theirs that rubbed me the wrong way. I put some of my own animations over it. The way you see it with all the animations over it is not how it was, so that might be a little confusing. I put my own animations over it, yeah. So I'm going to start with showing you the clip. What I did is I commented on their video, and it pretty much turned into a novel. They got me so fired up with what they said and how they said it that I commented and it turned into like just a whole novel. And so instead of like proofreading it or like whatever, I put it in the Google text to speak, which, for anybody out there that's too lazy to like read long things, or like anybody that doesn't know about this, everybody should know about this. If you go to Google, it's like Google Cloud Translate, like text to speech. Like some of the voices like you recognize,
blah 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 words.
like narrators on YouTube channels, like they use this text-to-speech. The AI is so good, it's like you don't even realize that that's what that is a lot of times. Because sometimes it's just like some like British chick, and you're like, I didn't know that British chick was just like a Google AI that reads text-to-speech. But so I took my novel that I wrote them, and I put it in text-to-speech, and it's actually pretty hilarious having this guy say it back. So majority of this video is just the text-to-speech reading off my comment on their channel. But I put it to this Rick and Morty thing. It's like Rick and Morty in a spaceship, and like Morty's looking out the window all just like pissed off and distraught, and Rick's just like looking all just like goody-goody, and it has my tag above Rick, and then it has their channel's tag above Morty. And as the AI is reading my comment, and as that GIF is playing, it's kind of like I'm Rick, just like ripping into, Redacted, which is Morty, and it's kind of a funny little thing. I thought it fit well together, because it just looks like Rick is just ripping into Morty, but it's really my comment that I left on Redacted's thing, and so, but it's pretty funny. But that's not what the whole video is. You're like, damn, your comment is a half an hour long. No. So this video at the end, I also put in news clips to prove a little bit of what I'm saying is, or put some, whatever behind what I was saying. And with that being said, yeah, I get news from like, I put in news clips from India, from Australia, from England, from everywhere. Like, they're literally the only people saying what they're saying, and I have proof from so many other news sources, and I piled that at the end. And so it's a whole artistic little video, okay? I got a lot going on in this video, okay? I like to be artsy too, okay? I'm sorry or whatever. But I don't know. Enjoy it. It's entertaining, I guess, at least, or whatever, right? Sorry. Anyways, see you guys. This is the last you're seeing of me in this video, so deuces.
Actually have results now. Things are going to happen.
Well, let's get to those results so you have some context. Now, over the last 4 days, there's been a referendum of these regions in Ukraine, the Donbass area, voting whether or not they want to join Russia. Now we can bring you the news that the early polling shows that those regions absolutely did vote to rejoin Russia.
Well, and the propaganda machine, I just wanted to say, has already started too, because they're already saying that the Putin's forcing this, that it's, not legit, like he's interfering in the election, he's forcing people.
Right. We have not, it has been really hard to find images of these people who are willingly walking themselves to the polls and happily submitting their ballots and coming out in exit polls. Those things have not been shown to us.
Yeah. Well, first of all, let's be clear. Western media is not going to show you that. The Western media is not going to show you the coverage that we've brought you here on this show, the coverage of Vanessa Beeley and Eva Bartlett and Wyatt Reed and other journalists and Patrick Lancaster who have been there, boots on the ground, covering the polling. And there's been no force. There's been nobody forcing anyone to vote at all. They can walk into polling places and vote. These journalists have been following around these individuals as they hand out ballots, and they've been able to vote on their own without any force at all.
Do you guys honestly think that all the people in the Donbass region voted to join Russia with a 97% victory of people voting to join? You really think they voted totally genuine, totally unswayed or unmanipulated? You think the overwhelming majority voted to side with somebody who has been killing all of their neighbors and friends, and they voted to join a tyrannical dictatorship? The very one that's been bombing their towns and destroying the cities that they live in? Everybody in that town that's been destroyed voted and said, yup, they want to join the enemy. They totally want to give up their democracy and freedom, and they want to become part of this country that everybody is currently fleeing. Are you guys serious? I've been following the Ukraine war since it started, and it really doesn't seem like that would happen. Every Ukrainian I've ever seen on any media despises Russia for what they're doing. This whole war is still going on because they don't like each other, and the Ukrainians don't want to join Russia. They're not just gonna have some magical election all of a sudden in the middle of a war that says, oh, all of a sudden they changed their minds. Oh yeah, because that's believable. I'm sure 97% of the civilians in that war-torn city totally did just up and decide one day that they like Vladimir Putin more than they like Volodymyr Zelensky. Yup, just about every single person decided to switch sides. Since they were finally asked so politely, that's all they ever wanted. HMPFTT. Haha. As if. The only way that would make sense is if there was only 5 people left in the whole area and 4 of them were scared or bribed into switching sides. That's the only way this would be sort of believable. Or another possibility. Maybe the Russians killed everyone in that area. So the election that was held there was probably all Russian people. And the new citizens there are all Russians. So of course they vote to join Russia. Because they're already Russians. Maybe that's their plan all along. They will invade city by city, kill everybody, set up shop, clean up the bodies, pretend you're Ukrainians, and then that way when they go to that city to have an election the people that are there are all Russians, so they vote to join Russia. And then they're like, see, that area voted to turn into Russia. As messed up as it is, I think that's more of a possibility than what you guys are proposing. Because last I heard it was a giant battlefield over there of depressing proportions. And it's a place where I don't think they're having any civilized elections anytime soon. They showed footage of like a regular voting booth, and said, yeah, we have people over there, and it's not like that at all. When it's like, yeah, that footage is obviously not even from that area is a battlefield. Also would be sorta hilarious and weird if the Russians decided now that they're losing they'll just go back to trying to be civilized and have a vote. It's like, oh, now that you've lost you wanna play by our rules. Then it would be even stranger if once they calmed down and put it to a vote the Ukrainians were just like, yeah, we actually never disagreed with you. We will join you, we were just being difficult. Lol. No, god damn it you guys. Now that Russia is really losing the war, yeah, now Ukrainians just voted to join Russia. Sounds realistic. Also, votes are almost never unanimous on anything, so that should be a red flag. You'd think it would be a little bit more of an up-in-the-air debate on whether to join these lunatics or not. I know you guys are always saying you're on the other side of the mainstream news, but okay. Does that mean that you don't think that the Russians are the aggressors? Do you not think that Ukrainians want their own freedom and want the Russians to leave? Are we not pretty much in agreement as a country, whether left or right, that the Russians are kind of in the wrong, kind of maybe even a lot? I think it's potentially very harmful to spread the fake news that the Donbass region all just voted willingly to join Russia. You are like the only news source that's saying that. And sure, I get that you guys are trying to be edgy and unique or whatever, but it's not good to peddle such dangerous misinformation like that. It really makes it seem like you're a Russian spy or on their side. LOL. Lol. If you are trying to prove that what everyone is hearing is wrong, and that what I'm saying is wrong, then go show us firsthand. And not just tell us that you have boots on the ground overseas. And this election is such obviously bullshit that it's insane if you don't see it. When the Ukraine invasion first started, I saw reporters interviewing Russians left and right, and the vibe that I got from Russians is that they are all scared. Scared of their government, scared to speak out against their government. Scared straight in a way. When asked seemingly normal questions, I've heard old ladies saying things like, "Don't even ask me a question like that while filming me. Vladimir Putin is perfect, and Russia is amazing. Don't film me." And it was very obvious to me in those videos that the citizens all have a very daunting shadow looming over them, that they are very afraid to speak out or step out of line. It's like being stuck in a violent abusive relationship, where the cops are like, "Are you okay?" And they're like, "No, yeah, I love this guy, he's perfect, why would you ever ask me that?" So yeah, it's pretty characteristic of an abusive relationship for there to be a situation where they forced them to vote a certain way, and then they're like, "See, they wanted this." Let's not forget all the war crimes and torture that Russia is accused of, and let's not forget the crime scenes that are being found when the Russians finally leave the places they've been occupying. No normal person, no nice decent human being wants to join the Russian wave of hate and destruction. The tormented Ukrainians in the Donbass are not signing up to fight side by side with Russia to help kill the rest of the county. But no, yeah, I'm sure it's all shaking hands and getting along, and singing songs in the Donbass region. It's all love and happiness, I am sure. Ha ha, not. I'm very surprised there was any election at all, in a place that's going through what they're going through. But that actually speaks volumes to the reality of what's happening there. The Russians are forcing them to vote a certain way. Then they're turning around and saying, "Hey look, they're having a civilized election, we would never let that happen if we were terrorists. And we would never force them to vote a certain way, we would never. They voted to join us. You hear that? We don't even have to carry on with this super successful invasion. 'Cause they want to join us." Jesus Christ. Please do some better research. And if you are the only news source that's covering the truth, if you are right, and everyone else is misinformed, then that is major news. That means Putin's plan is working and we might all actually be fucked. So if I'm dead wrong, then prove that, without a shadow of a doubt. Or shut up. 'Cause I'm telling you right now, there is nothing that you could ever say to convince me that they willingly joined them. That they all voted. And it was all civilized and fair, and they decided to give up their freedoms and democratic way of life. No, they all sat down and voted their rights away. They decided they're Russians now and they're gonna go help invade the rest of the country, and kill the rest of their neighbors and fellow citizens. Yeah, no, they just all sat down and voted. That was the next move. What the fuck? No, it's more than obvious that Putin is trying to claim this land as already his so that any attacks there are considered attack to Russia. Because, and here is the giant ta-da reveal moment. You ready? Russia will only use nuked if their land is attacked. If that land is claimed as theirs magically, then boom, they'll already being attacked on their homeland, so now anything goes. Can you really not see it? Please, please, please tell and or show me why you think that all the news stations are wrong about this. You said you have people there right now watching the situation? Prove it. If that's your one claim to the whole world being wrong, then prove it. Because I don't know if you know this, or not, but it's a huge dick move to say that they willingly joined them if they actually didn't. Can you think about the lie that you would be perpetuating in that case? Just if by some magical chance you are wrong? Did you ever think that maybe you're wrong? Did you think about that as a possibility? And how it would have vastly negative consequences to peddle a lie of that magnitude? I mean, I'm willing to accept that I'm wrong if I'm shown something convincing. But, for once in my life, I have confidence that I'm right about this. And that is with full knowing that I know I don't know jack shit. I don't know if you know this, but the Russians are not doing great in this war. Some would even say they're losing. Some might even say the Russians are doing terrible and are now desperate. So why would the Ukrainians decide to join Russia now? Now? Now of all times? Like now that the Ukrainians are winning, and pushing the Russians back, and regaining territory. Now that they're winning, now they should surrender. Sounds legit. No, you fucking moronic baboon person. It should be clear that Russia is just trying something new. They're now trying new tactics in the realm of psychological, political and social warfare. See now, they're just lying through their teeth as part of their war plan. Lying is the new strategy. But think about it for just 2 seconds. Why would Ukraine join a losing side? And since when is Russia all buddy-buddy, like, let's all have a vote and we will talk about it? No. It's a war zone in the Donbass. Did you forget that? It's no secret that Russia just called for a draft. They need more soldiers cause things aren't going well. And now tens of thousands of people are leaving to try and avoid the draft cause they don't want to join a losing side. And some don't agree with the whole war to begin with. With all the sanctions, mass migration, political backlashes and uprising, there is so much that points to Russia not doing well in a lot of aspects. Nukes are the only thing they have going for them. I don't think anyone is rushing to defend them or have their backs. To the contrary, everyone is abandoning them, turning their backs and shunning them. The whole world is just about, and so yeah, I am confident that no Ukrainian is trying to join Russia. They want to do so less now more than ever. And they never wanted it to begin with, so y'all are smoking that good shit. I need to get your plugs number or some shit cause y'all are on some other shit. That next level sticky good. But seriously, lay off the flocka. Come back to reality. Fuck off and shut up. Move to Russia if you think I am so wrong. It's like G-bus Christ. The Jews would never vote to join the Nazis. That is ignorant beyond belief. Just imagine if the Nazis went into the concentration camps and announced over the loudspeaker, hey, we actually no longer want to kill or torture you guys. You could be useful. So, sorry about destroying your towns and killing your families, but if we could use this opportunity to ask for a truce. If you guys will all agree to be our soldiers, we will free you, take care of you, and we can all conquer the world. You guys will no longer be victims as long as you agree to be soldiers. Haha, I'm willing to bet you the lower half of my body that the Jewish prisoners would tell the Nazis to go fuck themselves. You'll have to just kill us. Because there is no possible way you could ever convince me to do shit for you. I'd rather be tortured to death, than be your soldier, and continue this torment onto other people. You, sir, can literally suck my balls for even asking that. You're such an idiot, it's unbelievable if you ever thought for even a second I would ever join you. You audacious walking piece of pale dog shit. You are the last group of people I would ever have any respect for. Fucking white people. I guess what I'm trying to say is history has shown us that massacring families, leveling towns and attempting to genocide an entire groups of people is not a very good way of convincing them to like you. And it's not a good thing to do if you possibly want them to join your army. And then on top of that, something so obvious I shouldn't even be saying it out loud. But hey, newsflash. If you invade a country, halt people's lives, and make it into a living hell, those people aren't going to like you. That's just human nature and common sense. And it's so ridiculous that I feel I have to point that out. You made them hate you. And they're not gonna join you now. You can't just lie to the world and say, no, this takeover is willing. We're not intruding or imposing. They don't care that we're here. Sure, I have them tied up in the basement, but we actually recently had a talk. And we had a little vote, and they actually don't mind us anymore, and they're with us. And they're fine, and it's normal, and yeah, totally normal things. I swear they actually said that they are cool with us now. They said this area can be Russian, and they agreed they will be Russians. I swear it's a peaceful thing. And we have their permission and everything. Ha ha ha. Yeah, okay Russia. 'Cause being so civil, fair, understanding and non-homicidal is so par for the course for you guys. Haha yeah. Oh shit. My bad, you're right, Russia is so normal, sane and historically nonviolent. I forgot. They would never torture, manipulate, murder, invade, lie. None of those things. I'm sure it's just peaceful as fuck, business as usual over there. Everyone just decided they could all just get along. Oh thank God, now this peace and unity can spread to the rest of Ukraine. To refresh your memory, McDonald's left Russia. They were banned from the Olympics. The country has suffered many sanctions, and entire companies, corporations, and countries have shunned Russia for their actions regarding the Ukraine invasion. Then there are all the anti-war protests in Russia, as well as all over the world. The Russian soldiers don't even want to be involved, and they were threatened with jail time or death if they refused military orders. That and the Russian military even had to trick soldiers into invading. There are people high up in the Russian government that never even wanted this war. Everyone just about, except for Putin and maybe 3 other people want this war. No one else seems to care if Ukraine rejoins Russia. If anything, the exact opposite. The Russian citizens don't want the war. The military doesn't want to be in the war. Shit has been going terrible for Russia and their military since this whole thing started, and that's no secret. It seems the whole world is seeing them as the bad guys. And karma has been doing a good job of kicking their asses. I don't think anyone is eager to get in line to go to Russia or move there or anything, especially anyone in Ukraine. Now Russia is trying to draft 300,000 people, and now people are fleeing in the tens of thousands. And none of this is a secret to the world. All of this is well documented and broadcast to the world. It's not a conspiracy. So no, I really don't think an entire city voted to rejoin with Russia. It didn't happen. Period. If Zelensky himself said people were forced to vote at gunpoint, then that is the truth. So shut up. He is the president of Ukraine. He's not gonna lie about that. There isn't some bigger, deeper, weird conspiracy. No, this is the issue. It's not that deep. It's the war that is obvious and right in front of everyone's faces. So yeah, Zelensky is not gonna go on TV and just lie to everyone. It's not some strange left-wing conspiracy, or this, or that, or whatever you think it even is. It's just the truth.
Make it official, illegally annexing parts of Ukraine. Western governments across the globe condemning the move, which is a clear violation of international law. In that signing ceremony you see right there, President Putin says those territories, in his view, now part of Russia. His words, forever.
Russia formally declaring, with a huge degree of falsehood in each statement, that even where I'm standing here in Ukraine is now effectively Russia. The problem they have, of course, is that the 4 areas they say that are now Russia, they do not militarily control.
The Russian parliament passed a proposal this evening. It asked Russian President Vladimir Putin to recognize Donbass as a republic. In other words, a territory governed by an elected representative. And this is a clear provocation. It is a threat of war. And I will tell you why. Donbass will determine what happens next in this crisis. This is the region we're talking about. It's a small region in eastern Ukraine. Here's where it's located on the map. Now, like you can see, Donbass adjoins the Russian border. It has been at war for years, 8 years to be precise. Donbass consists of 2 regions, Donetsk and Luhansk. Both are heavily industrialized. A war broke out in 2014 here. It pit Ukrainian forces against pro-Russian separatists. Several rounds of talks were held. They resulted in what's called the Minsk Agreements. Russia, Ukraine, France and Germany signed this Minsk Agreement in 2014 and then a second part of it in 2015. The agreements were meant to stop the war. Russia agreed to withdraw troops and weapons from Ukraine. Kiev agreed to hold elections in Donbass and grant the region a special status. Neither side kept its word. So 8 years on, Donbass stands devastated. 14,000 people have died. In the past 8 years, 14,000. Families have been displaced. The area's economy has been destroyed. Today, pro-Russian separatists control 1/3 of Donbass. Ukraine considers this region as occupied by Russia. Moscow has been pushing for its autonomy. Ukraine wants to keep this region. There's been talk of granting Donbass a self-governing status. Now, 60% of Ukrainians are against it, according to a poll. A special status basically means elections, and elections mean pro-Russian parties will come to power here, and that would mean Russian influence on Ukraine's domestic and foreign policy. Ukraine says it may grant Donbass a special status, but for that, there must be a ceasefire first and a withdrawal of Russian troops and weaponry. Russia says all of this will happen only if Donbass is allowed to hold elections first. And this back and forth has been on for 8 years. It continues to this day. So that's the history. Right now, Russia is trying to change the status quo unilaterally. The passing of a proposal on Donbass is an example of that. Russia wants to recognize rebel leaders of Donbass and give them the status of legitimate rulers. What happens if Putin agrees to this proposal? What if he declares Donbass as a republic? There are 4 possible scenarios. Scenario number 1, Russia could invade Ukraine citing a threat to Donbass, and the groundwork for that is already being laid. A Russian news agency is headlining a possible threat to the region. Pro-Russian separatists are adding fuel to the fire. Listen to this.
The military leadership of the People's Militia of the Donetsk People's Republic observes preparations by the Ukrainian armed forces to unleash active combat operations in Donbass.
Recently, Ukraine was holding drills in Donbass. It was preparing to attack Donbass. Was it preparing, rather? It's highly unlikely. Scenario number 2. Russia could be using Donbass as a bargaining chip. It could promise reintegration of Donbass in exchange for Ukraine's NATO dreams. Scenario number 3. Russia could take these republics. It could take Donbass in exchange for de-escalation, basically redraw the map of Ukraine again. And scenario number 4. A full-fledged war could break out if Putin declares the region a republic. It amounts to sounding the war bugle. What is the Russian president likely to do? Speaking earlier this evening, Vladimir Putin said Russia should do everything to resolve the problems of Donbass. Recognizing Donbass would mean claiming sovereignty over the entire Donetsk and Luhansk regions, including parts controlled by Ukraine. And that would be, like I've been saying, a serious provocation. How will Ukraine respond to it? What about the West? Well, one can only guess at this point. Basically, what happens in Donbass or what happens with regards to Donbass will determine what happens next. So this is a region you must watch very closely.
We're just outside the Russian-held city of Donetsk. The front in this war stretches more than 300 miles. All along it are towns and villages like Pisky. Not that there's much left of this place anymore, though. This is artillery?
Yes.
Here in the Donbass, the lines were drawn many years ago. Since the Russians took Crimea in 2014, this has been contested, but they're digging deeper this time.
It's my life. It's life of my children, my kids, my mother, my wife, and my people. Because I am Ukrainian. Enemy won't destroy my country. Yeah. Not only cities, not killing people, destroyed my nation.
The Russians have regrouped on the land beyond. All their forces are now concentrated in this part of the country. Some of the soldiers have been here fighting and sleeping for the last year, tired and short of weapons, but on their own land, up against an invader. They believe they will win.
Bilohorivka has been pretty much obliterated. It was the village closest to the Russian leader's biggest military defeat in this war so far. And it was absolutely hammered in the weeks before. Virtually every building is torn apart, and there are the remnants of cluster bombs left exposed in the farmland around. Very few have been allowed to see for themselves what happened on the ground here. But the graveyard of Russian combat vehicles will go down in the Ukrainian military history books, at least, as one of the Federation's most humiliating defeats. Ukrainian military footage shows broken pontoon bridges which the Russians had built to cross the Donets River in order to surround Severodonetsk, the last big Ukrainian holdout in Luhansk, part of the Donbass. The footage shows Russian vehicles, some already in the river, being attacked on all sides. Certainly the wreckage we saw indicated there'd been significant losses. The Ukrainians say hundreds of Russians were killed, although that's difficult to verify as the bodies had been cleared before we got here.
Visual evidence and interviews show multiple instances where Russians appeared to have openly fired on civilians around Makariv.
Там человек лежит внутри. В сторону Макарова, вот туда не ехать, там русские танки стоят.
The following security camera footage shows a Russian armored vehicle firing several rounds into this sedan, without any apparent warning or provocation. The passengers, an elderly couple, were killed instantly. Videos and photos show Russian forces did take significant losses. And at one point, we hear a frantic dispatch from a unit under attack. There are even moments when call sign Baran 30 sounds close to tears.
We're entering the area now in the crosshairs of Russia's territorial ambitions, the heart of the Donbass region in eastern Ukraine. It's here that the Russians are now focusing, and where there's evidence of fresh attacks all along our route. As we travel in, we see reinforcements arriving all the time as the Ukrainians send extra troops and military hardware to fight the Russians off. Just 30 kilometers down that road is newly captured Russian territory as they're trying to claim more and more land in the Donbass region.
Our correspondent Hugo Bashega is in Kiev and joins us now. Hugo, do we have any indication as to the level of participation in these ballots?
Well, that's an interesting question, Tony, because the government here says that this is a propaganda exercise, that the result has already been decided by Moscow. So this is just a sham, as it's being described by officials here and also in the West. We've heard reports, though, from residents, accounts from people on the ground saying that soldiers are going door to door, forcing people to vote. Ukrainian officials are saying that in some towns, residents have been banned from leaving. Some workers have been threatened with losing their jobs if they do not join this process. So it seems that people have been forced to take part in this so-called referendum, even though Ukrainian officials say that the result has already been decided by Moscow, and this is just an excuse by Russia to annex parts of this country.
And if it then goes ahead and does that and declares those parts of Russia, whether or not the international community is prepared to recognise that, and the indications are that it's not, what then?
Well, I think the fear here is that Russia is going to say, look, those regions have voted to join Russia, to be part of Russia. These regions are going to be considered part of Russia, and any attack on those areas will be seen as an attack on Russia. Now, the Ukrainians say that nothing is going to change. This process is a farce. There's no legitimacy, and the international community will not recognize the legitimacy of this vote. And
billionaire Elon Musk has triggered a social media storm by asking Twitter users to contemplate on his ideas to end Russia's war. This prompted an online row with Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky, who was outraged with Tesla CEO's suggestions. Here's a report.
The world's richest person, Elon Musk, has enraged Ukrainian officials by asking Twitter users to weigh in on a plan to end Russia's war in Ukraine. Musk created a poll via Twitter, after which Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky responded with his own poll, tweeting, "Which Elon Musk do you like more?" The options being one who supports Ukraine and one who supports Russia. Musk, in a tweet, proposed UN-supervised elections in 4 occupied regions that Moscow last week moved to annex, after what it called referendums. The votes were denounced by Kyiv and Western governments as illegal and coercive. The proposed plan by Musk included Russia leaving, quote, if that is the will of the people. And he suggested that Crimea, which Moscow seized in 2014, be formally recognized as Russia, that water supply to Crimea be assured, and that Ukraine remain neutral. Musk asked Twitter users to vote yes or no on the plan. But Musk didn't stop there. He followed up with another poll, tweeting, "Let's try this then. The will of the people who live in the Donbass and Crimea should decide whether they're part of Russia or Ukraine." Supporters of Ukraine fired back. Lithuania's president tweeted in response, "Dear Elon Musk, when someone tries to steal the wheels of your Tesla, it doesn't make them legal owner of the car or of the wheels." But Musk said he didn't care if his proposal was unpopular, arguing that he did care that millions of people may die needlessly for an essentially identical outcome. The Twitter storm was met by at least one expletive from a Ukrainian official, Ukraine's outspoken outgoing ambassador to Germany, Andrei Melnik, who tweeted, "Is my very diplomatic reply to you, Elon Musk."
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says that Russian forces have, quote, completely destroyed the industrial Donbass region. According to the regional governor, Russian shelling killed at least 12 people and wounded dozens in the eastern city of Severodonetsk. The Ukrainian Defense Ministry said intense fighting there is preventing civilians from fleeing the area. In his nightly video address, Zelensky described the situation there as hell.
The Ukrainian armed forces continue to make progress in liberating the Kharkiv region, but the occupiers are trying to further strengthen the pressure in the Donbass. It's hell there.
She documents everything. People can report the damage on the government website, but nobody knows how long it will take to get any support.
My knees are shaking. My knees are actually shaking. I still can't believe it. I knew that the windows were broken.
If only that shell hadn't hit.
Yeah, if there wasn't this hole in the wall, we might still somehow move back. The house is still standing, but this is different.
Russian missiles have hit a grain warehouse in eastern Ukraine. Officials say the storage facility south of Zaporizhia is now completely unusable. Russia has repeatedly targeted Ukraine's grain warehouses and other civilian infrastructure.
Now, a lot of attention is being focused on the east of Ukraine, particularly around the Donbass region. Just tell us what the latest situation is there at the moment.
This is where the daily fight is going on, and it changes where the priorities are. It's Russia's main effort, and Russia's main effort has been around the Severodonetsk area. They're trying to close, at the moment, as of today, we're hearing from Izium from the north down to close this pocket to try and isolate the Ukrainian defenders in here and close them in and then defeat them.
So clearly, things are escalating in Ukraine. There's no denying that. There is talk of nuclear weapons and mobilization. Makes you wonder, what happened to good old diplomacy? Is there anyone even interested in peace anymore, or the idea of peace? Well, I can say one person says he is definitely interested in peace, Elon Musk. On paper, he is a business magnate and investor. He is the CEO of Tesla Motors. But in practice, he tries to do a lot more. You will hear Elon Musk talking about gender politics, about American elections, there's more. Even about the end of the world. But this time, Musk is talking geopolitics. He posted this peace plan, I repeat, for the war in Ukraine. First things first, it was unsolicited. Nobody asked him to present this plan. But then again, that's Elon Musk for you, isn't it? His peace proposal has 4 crucial steps. Step 1, redo the much talked about referendums in annexed Ukrainian regions under UN supervision. So if the people reject Russia, their soldiers must leave. That's what Elon Musk suggests. Step 2, Crimea is formally recognized as part of Russia. Step 3, restore water supply to the Crimean Peninsula. And step 4, Ukraine remains neutral, meaning it will not try to join NATO. A controversial peace plan, so to speak. By the way, this wasn't just a proposal, it was a Twitter poll. As always, Elon Musk wanted his millions of followers to approve or reject his plan. So what's the verdict? Last we checked, 40% of the people had said yes. They supported his peace plan. However, 60% of the people rejected it. And now Elon Musk, as we know, isn't the kind of guy who takes failures well. So guess what he did? Another poll naturally. This time he asked just one question. Should the will of the people in Donbass and Crimea decide whether they join Russia or Ukraine? 58% said yes and 42% said no. In the past, Musk has given statements against the war. His Starlink services have boosted internet connectivity in Ukraine. But this so-called peace plan has ruffled some feathers. Why is that? Because broadly speaking, this is what Russia wants. Crimea, neutrality, and Donbass. And under Elon Musk's proposed plan, Russia gets most of them, most of its demands. Which now brings us to the plan itself. What exactly is the thought process behind it? Again, let's go back to his Twitter barrage. Let me quote from his clarification now. This is highly likely to be the outcome in the end, just a question of how many die before then. That's what Elon Musk says. He goes on. Russia has 3 times the population of Ukraine, so victory for Ukraine is unlikely in total war. He adds, if you care about the people of Ukraine, seek peace. Now you can imagine how Ukrainians responded to this statement. Their army is making considerable progress on the ground. They are pushing Russian forces to the brink. So needless to say, Ukrainians are not too happy. They feel that Elon Musk is pushing Russian propaganda. We will get to his vested interests in just a minute, but first, let's dissect his so-called peace plan. First things first, how useful is it? I would say it is equal parts practical and equal parts impractical. I say practical because he's right about one thing. The war can only end in two ways. With an outright Russian victory or with concessions from Ukraine. No surprises there. The idea that Kiev can defeat a nuclear power is wishful thinking. Experts and analysts have said the same. So on that point, Musk is right. Why sacrifice thousands of soldiers just to delay the same outcome? And now, let me highlight the impractical bit. Let me pull up Elon Musk's tweet again for all of you to see. Take a look at point number 1. Russia leaves if that is the will of the people. Musk wants Russian soldiers to leave the annexed regions if the people vote for it. I wonder why none of us thought of that. Just make the Russians leave. Easy, easy. The war ends right there, right? If Vladimir Putin was concerned about the UN Charter or laws, he wouldn't have invaded in the first place. Russia would never agree to a UN-supervised referendum. Even if they did, they would never, quote-unquote, leave if the results are against them. So in that sense, Elon Musk's peace plan is a non-starter. It requires all parties to agree and work under the United Nations. And let's be honest, if that was so simple, there would not have been a war in the first place.